Hi, this is Marissa, and today I'm going to be talking about elementary school classroom seating arrangements. And the reason why I think it's so important for teachers to set up desks in a way that really benefits students' learning is because it really benefits and also influences the classroom discipline and effectiveness of instruction, as explained by Education World Incorporation in their website. And so when desks are set up in a way that students are not distracted and they're able to see the front of the room, their learning is benefited. But if they're not able to see the front of the room, such as the chalkboard or the screen, or they're distracted by their neighbor, that really negatively affects their learning. So it's super crucial that teachers really set up desks in a way that is best suited for the students' learning. So we're going to go over first steps and factors that teachers need to think about before they set up desks in the classroom. And we're also going to be going over three main seating arrangements, which are explained by Angela Watson in her article, Classroom Seating Arrangements. And I'm going to have the link for that in my work cited. And she's a teacher, as she explains in her site. And she has used these seating, and she explains the pros and cons of them, which I will in this presentation. We're also going to be going over some more ideas in a super cool site that we're going to look at later that has even more desk arrangements, which is very beneficial. So the first steps and factors that teachers need to think about, as explained by Watson, is they first need to think about how many students they have in their class. This really is one of the big predictors and decision-making factors of how a teacher should set up their desk room arrangement. If you have a lot of students, there's certain arrangements that you might not want to do, and we're going to explain that later. Teachers also need to think about whether their class is going to be doing a lot of group work. And if so, the desks need to be more together and grouped in a way where the groups are able to work easier. Teachers also need to be thinking about the type of instruction they're going to be having in their classroom, as Watson explains, and also whether there are aids used at the front, such as screens and chalkboards. If so, Watson explains that the students need to be facing the front. Teachers also need to be thinking about how big their classroom is, whether the desks are going to be able to fit, and what arrangements work for that, as Watson explains. And another thing is that teachers need to be thinking about the behavior of their students and how desks arrangements can really help with that or not help with that. And they need to pick the one that helps the most. And so the first one we're going to be talking about is called stadium seating, and Watson explains that it's also called angled rows with desks touching. This is actually a photo on her site, and I have the citation at the bottom. And as you can see, the desks are angled towards the front, which really directs the attention towards the front. You can even see the flag right there. And it kind of looks like tables, but they're actually individual desks compacted into tables. And it's really beneficial that the students are able to so clearly see the front. And we're going to explain that in the next slide. There are some pros and cons that Angela Watson explains about stadium seating arrangements. And so, the first pro that is explained by Watson is that the teacher can see everything that the students are doing. So the teacher's not wondering whether the students are paying attention. She knows whether they are because of the seating arrangement. Watson also explains that it takes up less space than other arrangements, which is super awesome and very beneficial for classroom space. Another pro that she explains is that it gives students a very clear view of the front of the room, so they're able to see the chalkboard, they're able to see the projector very well. Another pro that she explains is that it makes it easier for students to work in pairs or groups, because your partner is not across the room. He or she could be right next to you, and since the tables are made up of a couple desks, that group can be the entire group right at that section of desks, and that's very helpful. Some cons that she explains are that it does not work with a large group of desks or students because it becomes less effective for classroom management when there's more than 2 rows used. So as you can see right here, if there were to be like another row in the back on the left side or on the right side, the students might not be able to see the front, or the students that were in the second row might start talking to the students in the third row, and that could become distracting. So the next seating arrangement we're going to focus on is modified U or horseshoe desk arrangements. And this is actually an arrangement in Angela Watson's own class that's on her website, and I have the citation at the bottom and also on the works cited page. And in this arrangement, you can see that it's a definite U, a horseshoe style. And this is actually my favorite because all the students are facing towards the front. They can see each other, and they're directed towards the instruction. So some pros and cons that Watson explains are right here, and we're going to focus first on the pros. And Angela Watson explains that it allows you to fit many desks into a small space. So knowing that, we know that you can have a lot of students in this seating arrangement. So when we were first talking about factors that you need to think about, if teachers were to note that there's a lot of students in the class, they can think, I could do a modified U arrangement because I know that this arrangement fits a lot of students. And another thing that Angela explains is that students talk less during teacher direct instruction with the seating arrangement. And as you can see here, the desks are faced towards the front, and they're not so much facing each other. They're facing the front of the class, so there's less talking that would happen, obviously. Another pro that Watson explains is that it makes partner work simpler. Again, your partner's not across the room, they're right next to you. Same as stadium seating. So with cons, she explains that it's harder to address all of the students because they're so spread out. But she also explains that group work is harder because the desks are harder to move around. So you're not really so much in a group setting at all. You're, faced towards the front. This is another picture that was actually in Angela Watson's room, and it's called Groups or Teams, and that name kind of goes for itself. You can see that the desks are in groups made up of 4 or 5, and the students can easily work in groups, as she explains, and we're going to talk about that, obviously, later as well, but the citations at the bottom. And some pros and cons are listed right here from her, and she explains that it can save a lot of floor space, even with many desks, which is very helpful. But that she also explains that it supports cooperative work. So as you can see here, students can work easily together. They can easily, because they're facing each other. Their groups are not across the room. They're literally in the seating arrangement, so they can easily work on a project together. And they can turn their bodies to the front too, which is also helpful. Some cons, unfortunately, that she explains is that it really doesn't promote, it does promote off-task behavior, and it also is a little distracting for many students, sometimes very distracting. I remember when I was young, this seating arrangement didn't work too well with me because I was pretty distracted already as it was. But the students are faced towards each other, and if they're a little chatty, or even if they're not, they can start talking to each other, and just a foot away is their, to the left or right is their peer, and if their peer is being distracting, that can definitely negatively affect the student next to them. Some more ideas are actually on the site www.classroomdeskarrangements.com, and they're published by Preston Education Network, and I'll have the site in the works cited, and I'll have it cited as well. So if we click on that link right there, it brings us to the site, again, www.classroomdeskarrangement, and it's pretty much based on how many students you have in your class. So if you have 18, you're going to click on 18. And then you're going to scroll down to the list that they have. And let's say I click on semicircle. It'll literally give me not only a picture of what I can set my desks up like, but it also gives me an explanation. So let's say I click on 20 students. It'll have a list of 20 student arrangements. I can click on boxes. It'll give me a picture of what that would look like to have the groups set up. So yeah, that's the site. Thank you so much for watching this presentation. Here is the work cited. And I have the links under there. So for the classroom desk assignment, arrangement, for the site that Angela Watson has her seating arrangements in, there's the site right there. And I have also the citations for the pictures and for the various articles that I used. So thank you so much for watching.